on the phone. I won't forget it. Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes? Okay, that was Commissioner Ehrlich and Ted, was that you? Yep. And Commissioner Knightsky. Any discussion, any problems with the minutes? Everybody's okay? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? It's unanimous, Judy? Public appearances and comments. Is there anybody here for public appearances and comments? And just so you know, in the future, if anybody is here for public appearance and comments, when you step up to the podium, you have to wear a mask. No mask, no talk. Pretty simple. It's the way life is. Okay, so we'll move on to item 4, the alley vacation.
All right, we'll kick it off. Alley vacation. This is a request to vacate a platted open alley located east of North Montgomery.
I think they weren't hearing. Oh.
Did I? Oh,
There you go.
that's not much of a mute logo. Okay. Anyways, request to vacate the platted-only alley located east of North Montgomery Street, west of the existing north-south alley on that block, north of East Jackson Street, and south of Van Buren Street. And the applicant is Jude Demerit, who is the property owner at 414 North Montgomery Street. I'm just going to put the aerial up on the screen. And then while that's getting up,
Jude, while Bob's doing that, if there's any questions, I would appreciate if you step up to the microphone, okay? If there's any questions.
so
At the podium, yes. Thank you.
highlighted in red is the platted only in question, and I say platted only. Other terms are a paper alley. It's just simply a alley that was, yes, platted, but never constructed. We received the request from the applicant. It went to Common Council, and as per state statute, Common Council promptly referred it to Plan Commission for their review and recommendation. Following this, any recommendation by the Plan Commission, that'll be passed back to council, and following the statutory notification requirements and a public hearing, the council will act on the alley vacation after a 40 days of notice. It's essentially apparently it is a 10-foot by, depending on, 10 feet by 170 feet long. It has 3 properties that are adjacent to it, and if vacated, half will go to the 2 southern abutting landowners, and half of it will go to the property on the north half of the alley. Staff recommends approval of the alley. Its counterpart that was east of that existing alley was vacated in 2017. I think the applicant is here if you have any questions, but staff recommendation is to forward a recommend to vacate said alley to council.
I'll move to recommend that vacation.
Second.
Commissioner Knightsky, and who was the second? Rob? Okay, any discussion on this from anybody?
Yep, I don't want, very clear, I want to hear from the other neighbors if they have any objections to it before we recommend a vacation. And I also want to be clear that the survey is being paid for by the applicant and not by the city. That's understood? Okay, have you talked to your neighbors at all?
Jude, do you want to come on up to
Could you come
the,
up to the podium, please?
and there's a button to press, I think there's an arrow that shows you where to go. And you'll have to sign in up there on the, but, thank you. I have staff to sign me in when I talk. Oh, man. Thank you.
Okay, so I turn the speaker on.
Yep, you're on. Perfect.
I just want to say that I have spoken to the new owner that lives at 232 West Jackson Street. So he's aware of it and he's fine with it. The Mastenics next door, I know they're aware of it, but I haven't spoken to them specifically about this recently.
Okay.
They miss
My
you.
question would be to Bob, are we notifying?
That's a requirement as part of the, once it gets to the council, prior to council acting on it, prior to a public hearing, each abutting landowner will be notified in writing.
Okay. I'm fine with it as long as the budding landowners are, if your neighbors, because we've had this in the past when some neighbors have objected. So just so everybody's on the same page. But I think it's a logical thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion from anybody? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All set, Judy, unanimous again. Okay, Bob, we're on conditional use grant. Item 5.
Okay, this is a conditional use grant. This is a proposed date extension of an existing conditional use grant for the assisted living and memory care facility at the Prairie's Edge Development North Phase, located on the east side of Wisconsin Street, north of Sunset Drive. Applicant is Black Cap Halcyon. As the commission may remember, this is an approved conditional use grant for that proposed assisted living and memory care center. And the only item that the commission is acting on is to simply a request to simply extend the date by no later than date that's in your packet, number 8, and extending it from March 1st, 2021 to, I believe it is July 31st, 2021. And I believe the attorney Lisa Wood, attorney for the project, is on the phone if you have questions or comments. But the action is just simply to recommend kicking out the date of the conditional use grant from March 1 to July 31.
I assume that's due to the weather.
I think, yeah, just,
Sorry, this is Lisa Wood, and I am on the phone if there's any questions, but that is simply because we have to complete the grading
Yep.
before we can transfer.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions for the applicant? Again, hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion and a second.
I'll move to recommend to council to amend the date of the conditional use grant from March 1st, 2021 to July 31st, 2021.
Okay, Commissioner Ehrlich, do we have a second? Ted? Commissioner Knightsky is the second. Any further discussion? Again, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Oops. Opposed? Okay. So we got it, Judy? Okay.
okay. And this item will go to Common Council on March 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Item 6, certified survey map.
All right, this is a certified survey map. This is a proposal to combine 3 parcels into 1 lot, and the parcels affected are 410, 414, and 418 Johnson Street in the Mariners Point neighborhood. The applicants, Michael and Lori McAllister, they own the 3 properties in question, which I'll put up on the screen. And while that's getting started, here we are. And as noted in your report and up on the screen, the three properties are highlighted in red, adjacent to one another, all owned by the applicants. And they would propose to combine the three lots into one. And the purpose of that is to add on to the existing residence at 418 and add a breezeway and attached garage.
Are the applicants here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, the applicant, one of the applicants is here, Mr.
Okay.
McCallum.
Why don't you just go over design review?
Yes, just as a background information, the breezeway and garage addition did go to the design review board last month, was recommended for approval, I think, as presented. And then the CSM is here to accommodate that project, and I will put this up for your FYI. So while that's getting up, okay. Oh, okay.
Not going up.
No, not going up. There we go. Okay, just took a bit. Anyways, there is the aerials with the red outline where the garage and breezeway will be attached. That is the south-facing side of the house. And then there is the, well, it's on my screen, must take a while. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Okay, there it is. That's the project that will, in which the CSM is proposed for. And Mr. McAllister is here if you have any questions or comments.
I think Commissioner Ehrlich has a question.
So what is the street side elevation? Oh, there it is. Okay, the front elevation. Okay,
Existing residents, right up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then what is the building that's on the east side of the property, the long skinny piece of property? What is that building? Is that a garage?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's an existing detached garage, yes.
okay. And will that be torn down or will that remain?
That's to be, I think there's the zoning code is either, remove it and fill in the curb cut, or I think or remove the doors from it, effectively not making it a two garage property.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's what I was wondering.
So,
I'll move to approve.
the second was from Alderman Newmeyer? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Again, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're passed unanimously, Judy, okay? Moving on to item 7. I think your mic's off.
All right, we can take the next 3 agenda items together as they are part of one project. Motion and recommendation for separately, of course, but I'll take them together. The first is a certified survey map. It's to combine all of the previously platted lots into 2 lots at the Cedar Vineyard and Cedar Gorge and Clay Bluffs land. It's located on the east side of Lakeshore Road and south of Dinah Drive. The applicant is Bank Street Capital LLC. And if you give me a minute, I think I accidentally clicked off the entire folder here. Oh, there we go. anyways. Okay. Not sure why this is so slow. Let's see.
Someone's dinging you there, Bob.
Yeah, it's not letting me get into my
I
flash.
think it's Alderman Benning. He's just playing with you back.
Not letting me get into my flash drive. You know what? Let me try again. Here we go. Okay. All right, so if this is all of the large Cedar Vineyard land, and this is really the first step to developing this property for both projects that are proposed. It'll essentially split the land into two. The proposed Cedar Vineyard project north of Cedar Gorge is Lot 1, and then the proposed Ozaki County and Ozaki Land Trust Clay Bluffs Nature Preserve will be Lot 2. In doing so, this will officially break up the large landmass of parcel that's here, and also take care of all the previously platted lots that occurred both well before the VK proposal. And so the CSM is to make way for the upcoming and proposed projects. So it's essentially taking the Cedar Vineyard land and breaking it up into the two proposed projects, lots 1 and 2.
So Bob, by doing this, then we can finally get this project on the road.
This is the first step for both projects. I do want to add, I do have 2 conditions approval for the CSM. Number 1 would be on the copy you have make sure that the correct name of the mayor is on the signature block page. It's not Robert, but Martin T. And then the second condition of approval I would recommend is that on page 3, the square footage and the acreage match that of 1 and 4. I already spoke to the surveyor about this. He's aware of that. It's just that in the copy you received, pages 1, 2, and 4 have the correct, and this page 3 should match that. So if you do a condition of approval, I would recommend that.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicants at all, or anybody? We're good?
I'll move to approve the certified survey map with the 2 conditions as mentioned by Bob.
Second.
Commissioner Ryer, excuse me, was that, Tony, did you second that?
Commissioner Matera.
Yes. Did you do the second, Commissioner Matera?
Yes.
Okay, so now we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. Again, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
All opposed? Unanimous again, Judy. Moving on to item 8.
All right. With the CSM approved and the 2 lots designated, we're moving on to the proposed preliminary plat for the Cedar Vineyard subdivision proposal. That is in your packet. It is not in my thing here. I had high hopes for this. Anyways, it's in the PowerPoint presentation. I'll just get to that.
So I'll make sure I don't go out of order.
There we go. Okay. All right, so this is a revised preliminary plat for the Cedar Vineyard subdivision located on the east side of South Lakeshore Road and south of Dinah Drive. Applicants here are Ascend Real Estate and Cedar Vineyard LLC. This is a 45-lot, single-family subdivision and vineyard with public lake bluff access, and it's essentially a pared-down version of the previous Cedar Vineyard proposal from 2017. If you recall, that proposal occupied the entirety of both those lands, both north and south of Cedar Gorge. This is essentially paring it back down to just north of Cedar Gorge with those 45 lots. The preliminary plat is designated on Lot 1 of the CSM that we reviewed earlier this meeting, as previously mentioned. This is almost effectively the same preliminary plat from previously. There are some differences. It's going from 33 single-family lots to 45 lots. The 10 additional lots are located on the interior of Overlook Circle, as you can see up on the screen. The publicly accessible bike and ped trails from Lakeshore Road to the bluff edge remain a part of the subdivision. The vineyards remain an integral to the project, and they provide the separation between the public trails and most of the single-family lots. The vineyards remain located on the interior of Overlook Circle, but with a smaller footprint and the need for the additional 10 lots, the majority of the vineyards have moved to the east between the bluff edge and the single-family lots. Staff recommends the Plan Commission approval. And I think at this point, I think what we'll do is have your presentation just after the preliminary plat and then right before the rezoning request, if that makes sense to you. Okay.
Tom, there might be some questions, so you want to come up to the podium and turn the mic on?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bob. Again, my name is Tom Swarthout. I'm the president of the Highview Group from Lake Forest, Illinois. I represent the Ascend Real Estate Group out of Chicago. I made a brief presentation last night in front of the Common Council, and I'll try to make that a little quicker than I did last night. I reminded everybody in the room we came up here 6 years ago. Nick Patera and I was blown away with the piece of property that's here. It's really a jewel. And we wanted to do the right thing for not only this piece of property, but for this really special community. I met with Tom Malata at the time, Mark Grams, Bob's former predecessor, Randy Tetzloff, and I think Sean Graff, who's with the Land Trust. We really kind of came up with, we thought, a really great plan. The big difference I think you'll see tonight is the lakefront was going to be owned by the county all the way down to the water's edge, and this development will own the property all the way to the water's edge. Our goal in the past was to really preserve 100 acres for the community, the general community of Ozaukee County. We're doing that here. The 130 acres now are on the south side of the gorge. But Nick will walk you through the plan. We're going to have public access around this entire development. Obviously, 2 miles of walking paths around the project. It's really a culmination of what we really wanted to do from the get-go. It's really a better plan. Waiting almost 6 years to get this to the finish line has really resulted in not only the economics of the project because of COVID really helping all of us in real estate, but this community has moved so far in a short time. It's really still very special, but you know, we met at Harry's restaurant, the five of us, and that's gone, replaced. Now what Mr. Ansay is doing, I think, is pretty unique. We think this is really going to be a catalyst for what's going to go across the street someday with the Tillman property, and eventually they'll be part of our project. We're going to purchase 4 acres, and that's where the winery is going to go. In the past, that was going to go down the street some distance. And so we think it's as good, maybe even better than what we had proposed in the past. less homes, obviously, but really the same kind of concept. We have the same team assembled. We're excited to have Ascend part of that team now. And with that, I'll
Yeah.
let Nick kind of walk you through.
Let's get into that presentation. You set it up. Let's just,
Okay,
prior
thank you,
to the
Bob.
next two,
Here's my old friend.
yeah. Since this item and the next item are specific to
And I
Cedar
know Mike was a
Vineyard.
part of the original development. Paul's been here from the get-go. Obviously, Judy and Rob's been a big supporter. He's really given us some great guidance in terms of the utilities, and we still have some tweaking to go. The project has already been bid out. It's all engineered. We're ready to go. So it's not just happy talk. We're at the finish line, and I even brought my son. He used to be working at ESPN. He actually moved here and will be part of the project. So with that, Mr. Patera.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Nick Patera, and some of you have met before with a little overview of the site plan that we've come up with. As Bob had said, there's a lot of similarity to where we started, but there's some subtle differences. If you would go into the color plan, I'd appreciate it, Bob. But the location, if you see, is just south of town. We can see the green in the middle of the screen. That's the proposed property. If you go to the next one, you'll see this enlarged. And so that this is a 70 acre piece of property that runs from Lakeshore to Lakeshore. The piece of property that's on the left-hand side of your screen, west of Lakeshore, is a 4-acre piece of property. I'll show you more about that, but that's the vineyard. Good, it's okay, go there. And so this is a portion presently owned by the Tillman family. And what we're showing here is a coordinated entrance point that's coming into our Crescent Road to Overlook Drive, but it also then will feed to the winery. And then that green path that you see that arcs up from there, that would lead into the Tillman property. So we've anticipated providing access to Lakeshore in a coordinated way so we don't have a bunch of disconnected roadways connecting to Lakeshore. We want to keep that frontage along Lakeshore very clean like it is today. The winery, as long as we're on this, the brown structure on the lower right corner of that 4-acre parcel is a winery, and it's a barn building that we have, and we wanted to place that close to the road. The idea here is to see the vineyard and see the winery building, and have the parking accessible, easy to get to, but tucked in the back. So we're not seeing a big parking lot out along Lakeshore. It's too pretty. The vineyards, you can see the parking lot is about 106 cars. By the time we work ADA and accessibility in there, it will still be somewhere in the range of 100, I would assume, parking spaces on this property. If you would go back just for a moment, Bob, the site plan itself, it has dedicated road that Crescent is Overlook Drive, and the cul-de-sac going to the south of it are all 60-foot right-of-way with conforming road coming in as a 60-foot. The 45 lots, you can see the infill that we provided still provides great visibility from each one of the lots. In other words, when we're laying out a planned development like this, we always try and evaluate, say, where would I live? And every one of these lots has some kind of a virtue, whether they're looking at the lake, looking at Cedar Gorge, looking at a vineyard. There aren't any backseat I've got the back corner lot. They're all, one better than the other, but they're all getting views and access visually to open space. The property divides itself up nicely into the 70 acres is about 1/3 open space, 1/3 vineyard, and 1/3 residential. So it really does have a nice balance, and that's why it looks appealing. That it looks like we haven't done, just filled the entire property with home sites. I did talk about the future right-of-way that you can kind of see better on this plan a little bit, that goes over to Tillman's, the bike path, and then there's internal pathways that will let you walk along the vineyards that are on the east side. That east side vineyard is about 17 acres. The middle, in the inside of the half circle, is another 2.5 acres. So we have, give or take, close to 20 acres of wine vineyard on this property, that'll come to the winery and be part of the whole processing and the experience that you have. I guess we can go from here. The winery itself, there's some images that Tom has taken. If you'd go ahead, please, Bob. And we've looked at the plat survey, but Tom has found a potential with this particular barn to become the winery itself. Stone foundation, classic Wisconsin barn. Tom can tell us where this is, but these are absolutely beautiful. Hewn wood beams. It's probably over 100 years old. 150 years. Fresh air was in abundance on these pictures, so some work will have to be done to make it weather tight and a comfortable place to stop and have a glass of wine or to process the grapes. There's another couple pictures, but just showing the interior and the fantastic wood construction of natural wood here. So Tom and I are both available if you have questions. I can come back and answer whatever questions you might have.
I'll lay it off. I have 2 questions. I see there's a bike path, and the bike path would go parallel to Lakeshore Drive?
It meanders, it runs parallel, but it's not tight to Lakeshore. And so the only place it shows up is on this plan, which is too tiny to see on the screen.
Okay.
In your packet, you can see it better.
Right.
But if I reached over these gentlemen here, it would be on the east side of Lakeshore, and it runs north and south. But you can then get a crossing of Lakeshore Road to get over to the vineyard. And then we also have, if you can see on the previous one, there's some red connections. There's the bike trail in blue that runs along the lakeshore. The red are internal trails that are publicly accessible, that are within the Cedar Vineyard development. It'll bring you out so you can get a vista of the horizon out between the grapevines and take a look at the lake and walk through the property itself.
Thanks, Nick. I think the bike lanes or the bike path is really good. I do drive down that way because it's very scenic. And there are people on bikes that ride 2 and 3 abreast and don't move over. And I would hope that they would use these paths. My second question is actually for our city engineer, and I really am not being a jerk about this, Rob, please. But this is bit out already, right? But you have on the design, there are sidewalks only on one side in Overlook Circle. Are you going to make them put sidewalks on both sides, Rob, or
Yes.
not? What?
Yes.
So plan on it because he'll win this one again too.
So, yeah, so this is just a different, so this is, there are subtle changes to this design from the previous design. So the group has adapted their previous design and they've modified it. So, I'm not concerned, but we will still have to review the engineering. It has been approved for the previous design. We'll have to look at it again. The stormwater management plan will have to be reviewed again. We're not starting from scratch, but the development on the west side of the road with the winery, that's not been reviewed prior. So we're gonna have to look at that again. My other concern, since the mayor's kind of
Jumping the gun?
well, no, since he brought up the topic, the other concern I have, which hopefully, will be resolved without problem, is naturally we have the lift station that we're gonna have to site somewhere there, and I'm a little concerned about the amount of room will have to do it, and any offset requirements that the county has, I actually don't know what their offset or what their setback requirements are off of County Trunk C. So these are things that could affect the final plat. I'm fine with the preliminary plat, but that is something we're gonna have to figure that out. It could even be on the west side of the road. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that southeast corner like it was originally placed. So we can be flexible with that, I think, and just put it in, because we want to, we don't want to plunk it right down next to somebody's $1 million home. So we are going to have to find a home for it. So right now I see on your plat, you don't have a home picked out yet for it, and we don't know how big it's going to be. Originally, this was going to be a smaller lift station because it was going to serve the larger lift station, which was going to be on the southern end of the development, the south half that's now owned by the county, or will be owned by the county, or might be owned by the county. So this lift station, the intention would be it would serve the entire area once it's developed someday, whenever that is. So those would be so we will need to review. We will need to review all these things. Obviously, it's not a huge departure from the original design. But yeah, as the mayor indicated, and this is no different than on the cul-de-sac, you always had sidewalks on both sides of the street because we had residences on both sides. Originally, it was just on one side of the street because there were only residences on the east side, and on the west side was all grapes. Now he has residents and grapes. So now we'll have residents and grapes and sidewalks, which I'm sure the people will appreciate. So, and then the bike path to downtown, I sincerely do appreciate Tom's enthusiasm for that, because I think that makes it part of the community rather than. I think it's going to be an invaluable connection. I really do. And then Alderman Gasper's comments last night, I think ring true too. We want to have the road design to make a real connection between this development and our downtown.
Rob, like always, we agree on everything.
Except
and you're right.
Except on 2 Sundays a year.
Yes. Oh, poor Alderman Becker. It's true. We had not had a internal sidewalk on the horseshoe area. In fact, Rob and I kind of went back and forth. We always want a kind of a rural feel. We eliminated some curbs, in fact, and got a variance for that because we wanted the shoulders to be of gravel to kind of give a less Schaumburg look. But with this new development, we're going to have to go back, reinstall some curbs, certainly on the horseshoe area, put sidewalks there. We capitulated and we agreed with Rob. We are going to have internal paths through the vineyard, and we think a lot of people will go and see a neighbor and cut right through and use it, and I think the sidewalks won't be utilized like you would in a traditional neighborhood. This is unique. Our landscape plan actually reflects that. If you recall, we kind of wanted to cluster our trees and not have that traditional every 25 feet plant some kind of deciduous tree. But we're happy about the flexibility. We know that the Tillmans are very concerned about the lift station and the capacity of that. We've already indicated that they're going to cooperate with the long-term cost of replacing the pumps that we've had previous discussions with Rob. And so I think these are all simple issues that will be resolved in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Ted, you had a question? Or,
I just have a question for the staff, and I don't need an answer tonight, but with the lake property and the bluff, I'm wondering if you can send me what is the retention strategy there for erosion, as that continues to be a significant issue on the north side of town, and what that would be over there. So I don't need an answer tonight, but if that's going to be, if I'm hearing this correctly, that's part of the land trust?
No.
You own that property then?
We do own that property.
Okay.
And Mr. Nutsky, previously we hired a firm called Shabika, who came and analyzed the bluff here, specifically the entire length of the bluff. They're probably the #1 engineers that look at that up and down the Chicago North Shore, all around Lake Michigan, and they evaluated it and felt that really most of the erosion that occurs from this specific piece of property is just sheet draining from west to east. None of the water is recaptured. So in our engineering drawings, we're actually incorporating a bioswale, really best practices, not putting a pipe, taking all that storm drainage in, and we're going to use we grew up and we called them ditches, but it's a bioswale that's going to, grab that water, bring it to the gorge, and collect it that way. That way it gets cleaned, it slows down the water, and we think that pocketing you see, especially if you go and look at the drone video, it's really apparent. So they estimated you'll lose 6 inches a year on that bluff annually, and we'll be back a couple hundred feet from the residents. So that's why we thought that the vineyard really is an ideal spot. And we're actually looking at our vineyard manager is already, we're talking about the height of the rows, the direction of the rows. This is not Napa. We don't want rows up 8 feet. We want to keep those rows down so you get those views over the top.
Yeah, I understand that. I just want to hear for the city's liability in the future, because there used to be a parking lot where there is now air on our North Bluff, and there, that'll be a concern over time. And
Certainly.
so I appreciate that, and I appreciate the diligence you've done. So thank you.
It's a great question.
Thanks, Ted. Commissioner Ehrlich?
Tom, question, years ago, the beach portion was public land, and now you're owning it.
It's all public access.
It still is all public access?
All public access.
Okay. So one question I have is, from those paths, those walking trails, will you have stairs down to it or to the beach, or?
We've already worked with the land trust / county, bridge going over the gorge at a specific spot that we still need to determine, and then they're going to do a switchback stairs very similar to Lion's Den to get people down to the bluff, or to the beach, because individual homeowners just can't do it. It's just impractical, and it's nonsense to even try. So that's why we've been working with the county and the land trust, and I think we're just going to continue to be great neighbors. It's just what an asset to be a homeowner and to be right adjacent to the preserve.
Sure.
The only difference will be access points, and we really want to restrict the general public from walking around after dusk and before sunset. And the county has they have hours. And, in the winter months, it's a little different than in the summer months. And I think that's the only change that we would have with a traditional county preserve.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to motion to accept unless there were other.
I don't. Alderman Newmeyer, do you have a
Yes.
concern? Please, go
No,
ahead.
and a concern, thank you, I appreciate your diligence as this project's gone along, and Commissioner Ehrlich's question was what I was going to ask about, was the public access to the beach once our water levels go down. It's something we've tried to maintain all along with all our developments there, that we have a continuous walking path from Lion's Den eventually into the city, so thank you for maintaining that. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Knightsky.
I'll second.
Second.
Oops.
Go ahead, whoever wants it.
Tony, I think I got you on that, right?
I don't know, but sure.
Well, if you were talking, I heard your voice before I heard Commissioner Ehrlich. So a motion by Commissioner Knightsky, the second is by Commissioner Matera. Any further discussion?
I think this is a great project, and I'm really excited for this thing moving forward.
Concur.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say this has come back a couple of times with some different iterations, and I think this one is really nice. I like the variety of uses there and the preservation of the open space. It's going to tie in really nice with the land trust property to the south. I think it's going to be a really, really nice project and unique as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for your persistence, Tom.
I'd echo that. I appreciate you investing in our community. And this is a really cool thing. This will be a really nice addition for, our community as we seek to be a destination. And, we can put a wine garden out there or something and we can have a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
I concur with all the fellow commissioners. I want to take this time to applaud Tom and his team for his persistence. He's met every obstacle with optimism. And that can-do attitude is, I can't wait to see his dream come to fruition and get across the finish line. I know a month or 2 months ago, the bank was back putting this property back on the market, asking the city for input, what we wanted, and we said we wanted Tom. So I appreciate this opportunity to get this, to help him get this across the finish line. So thank you, Tom, for your persistence and optimism and your vision to, in partnership with the city of Port Washington.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, I would agree with that. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Unanimous, Judy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So rezoning, Bob?
All right, with the CSM creating the lot with the preliminary plat. Sorry, thank you. So with the CSM approved and the lot being established, the preliminary plat being taken up and establishing the subdivision lots, it's now, the next item will be rezoning the revised preliminary plat and just the revised project as a whole. Let me put up the PowerPoint slide. And while that is getting fired up, this is a rezoning of a revised preliminary plat from a base zoning of RS1 single family, B2 local business, and PUL public utility lands to the proposed RS1 single family residential, B2 local business, and this is, again, the applicants are Bank Street Capital, Ascend Real Estate, and Cedar Vineyards LLC. Let me put up the, what I'm going to do is start off with the preliminary, or the current zoning, or the previous zoning, current from the previous project. As you can see highlighted in red is that portion of the project we're discussing. As you can see, there's 3 zoning districts presently. Previously there was the vineyard in the center of the horseshoe or overlook circle. The residential lots are zoned in the yellow, that's the single family. And then previously, all of that, when it was all part of one contiguous parcel, was going to be the PUL public utility lands in which the walking paths and the pedestrian access would have been. With this revision, what we're doing then is just, since the vineyards were the B2 business portion of the zoning of the entire project, we're going from 3 zoning districts to 2. There's, again, RS1 single family in the yellow as highlighted, and then the vineyards and the open spaces are B2 business. And then we are keeping the overlay plan development that's in place currently that is for this specific project. And the overlay plan development, that will be applied to the entire parcel, and that will be taken into account some of the lots widths and arrangements, and also just the project as a whole as a planned development, and that will include ensuring that the public access paths are included as part of this overlay plan development. I think as we go forward, this is separate from the zoning, but with a developer's agreement, ensuring that the public access is ingrained or codified within this project. And so the proposal here is to take the preliminary plat and zone it RS1 single family, B2 business with an overlay plan development to reflect the overall Cedar Vineyard site plan that we've seen today.
Thanks, Bob.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we had discussed about the zoning on this, that there could be some conditions attached, that the project, that the zoning would only be applied if the development developed as.
Yeah, that's something we wanted, the city attorney wanted to look at prior to it going to council.
Okay,
When we start drafting the ordinance.
okay. So it's not something for us to recommend at this time?
Right now, I'm just recommending just the base zoning and the plan development. And then if you want to add that to your condition, or we will take that up when we start drafting the ordinance prior to the public hearing and council approval.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Tony, if you want to speak to it at all, but this is something that we've discussed with Tom and his group about placing some conditions on the zoning so that so that the approved development develops rather than, for instance, zoning it as
You're saying
being,
the zoning would ride with the project.
the zoning would ride with the project, so that we sometimes, occasionally we'll zone a project, the project doesn't come to fruition, and then a completely different project, not meeting the previous approvals, gets constructed. So I think we want to avoid that in the future.
Yeah, and the suggestion I'd probably make for the plan commission is that if there's a desire to approve this, that it is conditioned on the city attorney's review and whatever conditions he sees fit to maintain, that the rezoning would not occur if this project didn't move forward.
Thank you.
So do we put in place in the motion a timeline then, or just that contingency for the legal review?
Just the contingency for the legal review.
I'd move approval with the condition upon the legal review that the zoning is attached to the project as presented.
Okay, motion, that was Ted again? Okay. Oh, Ehrlich. It's difficult to hear, I apologize. Oh, I said Commissioner Ehrlich, didn't you hear me?
No, he's just picking on me.
Oh, usually I call them aldermen, so we're better off this way. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Again, Judy, unanimous?
And with this recommendation, it'll be forwarded to the Common Council, and I will schedule a first reading on the matter on March 2nd, and a public hearing and second reading I will schedule for March 16th.
Great. And Tom and Nick, thank you so much. I'm glad this came to fruition under my mayorship, even though it's lame duck. But I do appreciate it because I think this is a good project. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're ready to go. That means a lot.
And, the world kind of found this place. I found it a long time ago, but with COVID, I think people are seeing the wisdom of living in a charming village like this. My community has never seen real estate more active than they do in my life. And it's just people recognizing they can work anywhere and it's like,
It'd be really great for people to come to a lower tax state than live in a. My son lives down in Illinois, so you guys do have high taxes.
Just remember, no bear flags.
Yeah.
We'll put it in ordinance.
And what does Charlie Barron's all say? Go packing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I got to hear
Bear
about
down.
that. Thank you. Okay.
Be safe in your travels.
Item 10, concept plan for proposed boat storage at 500 North Spring.
Okay, let me just put this up on the screen. Okay, this is a concept plan for 4 self-storage warehouse buildings for boats and yachts at 500 North Spring Street, otherwise known as the former Simplicity site. The applicant is Ted Weldner. And the applicant, as I noted, he is the owner of the former Simplicity complex and is proposing to construct 4 warehouse-style buildings for individual storage of boats and yachts. This is the site in question currently, and this is the kind of the proposed concept. You're looking bird's eye with the north side of the complex on the right of the screen. The west side and North Spring Street is on the upper part of the screen. And then you would see the three proposed buildings on the far north, and then one is proposed for the front of the current building, just kind of paralleling North Spring Street. Let's see. I'm just going through this. I mean, there's, and as noted in your packet, I mean, building one would propose to be 50 by 230 feet, 23 feet in average. And then the buildings on the north side are buildings 2 through 4 would be about 70 by 170 feet. And then about 23 average height. No landscaping is planned. Self-storage access about 24/7. Heated units. No fencing or lighting outside of over the entrances are planned. This is a concept plan. I think what we do with concept plans is just kind of a proposal to the commission on both the use, kind of a what do you think, the use and site layout for comment. And this would be just taking the temperature from the commission and any use and design suggestions, recommendations prior to going to the final building and site plan stage. And I think the applicants are here for any questions or comments.
Anybody?
I'll make a,
There's going to be a lot of
Okay. No, go
comments, I
ahead.
think.
Who are the applicants? Who are they? You gentlemen? Yeah. Could you come over to the podium? Thank you. Kind of hard to talk if you're not, but can you, what are your intentions? I like the idea of the boat storage. What are your intentions with the rest of the building? I mean, where are we going with that right now? Okay.
Oops. Got to turn the mic on, please. Does. Oh, it's not.
Turn- There you go. Thank you.
It would be all boats.
So the old complex would be storage also for boats and everything?
Yeah, the 4 buildings.
Okay. The new buildings you're talking about?
Yeah, he asked questions, what about your old buildings?
What old buildings?
Well, where we got boats in and you got all the storage right now. They want to know.
Are you talking about the main building?
Yes, the main building. Is that?
Well, the main building has, current tenants, company called CPI. They've grown.
Okay.
So they've expanded up to like 60,000 square feet.
Okay.
Now in the middle section of the building.
Okay.
And then Clean Test, they've expanded. They started in a smaller section. Now they've pretty much taken up most of the building. So
Okay.
the building's pretty much all full. So, I only have a small little section inside the building that we have a small amount of boats in there. So right now, I don't know what I'd be doing inside as far as boats go, because I'm still talking with these other tenants because they all want more space.
Correct.
So, I'd probably go that way first.
Tell them they got about 20 boats in there, right?
Yeah, there's about 20 boats inside.
Okay. In your concept for the new buildings, it's going to be gated storage. I'm assuming it's going to be an gated.
He wants it gated. It's not going to be gated, it's going to be enclosed.
Well, there's a fence around the property already.
I understand that, but you're 24/7. Are you going to have a powered gate for access for people coming and going into the boat livery area there, or is that just going to be open constantly?
That's going to be open constantly and with locks in it. They want you to close it off. That's not going to happen.
Close.
Make a gate.
Oh, you want each building? No, each.
No,
I'm not following.
I guess when you drive into the north complex now, the north side of your building,
Yeah, there's like a main gate around
Right.
the whole thing.
will that be powered up, open and closing for the tenants as they come in and out with their boats, or will that be open all the time?
I mean, it's electric fence right now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I could put a keypad
No,
on it or
that's- I'm just-
something like that, that'll open and close.
The deal is you got trucks going in 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
They're not gonna
That's the whole thing, is Clean Test is in there,
24
Okay.
hours a day.
All right.
7
Okay.
days a week.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So it's just for boats, there's no RVs, no cars, just boats and yachts, correct?
I mean, that's the plan right now, but, you know, it could be, you know, RV or, you know, could be, you know, I'm always open, you know, you never know if you get a tenant that wants to take one whole building. You know, that's why I'm putting the bathrooms in it, you know, so then it does open itself to doing something like that.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions down the line? Rob?
Oh, I appreciate your question. I appreciate the comment about the boats. Of course, this is a boating community. I just don't know that this is the place to invest in boat storage. This is there's a residential neighborhood across the street. This was once a thriving industrial development. Now it is being used as storage. When I look at the I-1 zoning, which this falls into, storage is not listed as a permitted use.
Going in 24 hours.
The closest thing is general warehousing. I don't think that lines up with the definition of general warehousing. If you research that term, I don't see, and again, with what Alderman Newmeyer alluded to was, you know, the plan. This is a concept plan for one portion of the 24-acre lot. And I disagree with this plan to build storage units that, as we hear, could store boats, it could store RVs, it could store anything. And I don't think that storage units is either appropriate or permitted use for this site. And so I would not be in favor of
This guy's
this concept.
of it. He says this is not a.
Thank you. Thanks for the input. Anybody else? Because it's just a concept plan.
Is there any planning for this area? Is there any long-term plan, or is it just owned by one individual and they're pitching ideas? I don't know if this is a redevelopment site, or is this kind of earmarked for, you know, I would assume if you're able to put 4 storage units here,
You know, they,
that there's a potential for the south side of the property then also becoming storage? It's kind of an open-ended question. Is there any sort of a master plan for this 24 acres, or is this just kind of piecemeal as the owner comes up with ideas?
I think he's talking to you, Bob. So how about the future land use plan? What's in the comp plan? I know that there isn't like a redevelopment plan for this particular site, but I believe it does allude to, well, yeah, it clearly does in the future land use section of the comp plan. But Bob is currently reviewing and redrafting that particular section, but I think he can probably speak better to what's in the existing plan.
So do I have a redevelopment plan for this site? I do not. The current future land use map has a land use category is called redevelopment that's been applied to, you know, a handful of sites throughout the city. And then if you dive into a bit closer to that redevelopment land use category, it's just specifies just simply various commercial uses. And it does not mention, I mean, it mentions specifically current retail and commercial uses. It just does not mention any other types of uses, say residential, industrial, et cetera. And so it's kind of which is, you know, I'm a little surprised by that, but it was specifically commercial. Redevelopment was the category, and then the description of that land use category was various commercial and retail uses.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. I tend to agree with Rob. I think, I actually used to live a little bit northwest of this, and I actually still walk through here periodically. And yeah, I mean, no matter what time of day or night it is, there are semi trucks going up and down that street, getting in and out. And I think it is residential on every single side except for the railroad tracks. So I don't know if it's the best use for this site.
I'll kind of jump in here.
Please.
I'm not so worried about storage. Actually, I think storage is going to have a lot less coming and going as if it was heavy industrial or things like that. I mean, this is the one piece of property in the city of Port Washington that actually has a railroad spur, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which is a big deal. And so it's really disappointing that we can't seem to get some industrial piece or company here.
The indications that we have are the railroad's not going to be running through much
Okay.
longer.
Oh, okay.
And well,
Go ahead.
and I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, since this property has gone from simplicity to what it is right now, the value of the property is around $60,000 an acre, whereas the residential neighborhood immediately south of it is $1 million an acre. And I just, so I think as far as what should be permitted there, I obviously, this does not have, the value in its current use that it should have. I would say it's underperforming. And be that as it may, I think, again, this is not permitted by, I think it's not permitted by the zoning, and the concept plan is just a plan for less than half an acre of a 24-acre site. And I think it'd be similar as if, whether it's Prairie's Edge or Cedar Vineyard came to us and said, well, here's our concept plan for half an acre. We'll tell you what the rest is when we get to it. So I'm not comfortable approving this concept.
I guess that would be my other comment is I really, for the concept plan, I really would like to see an overall plan. What are we actually planning on doing here? Because I worry that what's going to happen is this year it's boat storage and things like that, and then in 5 years it's, well, I think we can do this and this and this, and so now we got this kind of hodgepodge of stuff on this 24-acre site. I'd like to have an overall plan or a plan of what's
Right,
what we're thinking.
And as I said, boat storage, certainly, I mean, I don't own a boat, but if I did, I would need to store it somewhere. But just because boat storage is a necessary business doesn't mean that this is the best location, and that's our job as a plan commission to determine the best use of land. And I don't think that this is the best use, and again, nor do I think it's permitted.
Can I jump, Rob, why do you think the railroad isn't going to run? I know they're going to shut the coal plant down, but there's still a substantial rail yard up in Sheboygan and north of there.
Trying to recall who.
To extend the conference for 15 minutes.
I'm trying to recall who told me they didn't think it was going to be long running. I don't know. Obviously I don't know that.
Okay,
But regardless, this is not going to use the rail line.
No.
So, I mean, I don't see a rail spur, the location of the railroad benefiting this property at all.
I'm not going to belabor the point. I agree with Alderman Newmeyer, Rob, and you as well, Mike. This is a pretty significant piece of property within the center of the city. And like you guys have expressed, the fact that we're kind of taking a piecemeal approach is one thing, but on a parcel that's this size, along with, I think you could say probably more than half of it not actually being utilized, not knowing what's going to be done with the building on the south west corner and the other building that's just to the north of there. Those are all things that would indicate to me that this isn't in a position at this current time where there's been thought given to how things might lay out in the future with the entire site. So for that reason, it gives me pause. And on top of that, as Rob alluded to, this body is really here to be talking about community planning and land use management. And to me, as far as that latter point goes with land use management, I just don't know if this is probably the most appropriate sequence of events, given that this is just looking at one northern part of the parcel.
Thanks, Tony. So anybody else have anything to put in? Go ahead, Ted.
I was going to move to reject the concept.
I don't think we have to move, it's just a concept.
Just let it go.
Yeah, there's no motion or,
Okay.
Yeah, no, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
Now, having said that, I really,
When I bought this property a couple years ago, for many, many years, they were doing boat storage at the main facility, you know, with about 100-some thousand square feet, you know, so, I mean, that's what he had been doing for like at least 7 years, you know, prior to me purchasing the property. So this land has been sitting empty forever, you know, the whole property. So, you know, I'm trying to do something with it, you know. And, you know, I was able to get a good tenant in there to lease out the main part of the building. And this is a pretty simple process. These people bring their boats in, you know, with the semi, and it happens in about a month. They drop their boats off. Then they take them out in around like June, you know, or the month April, May. And then that's it. You know, I mean, there's not big truck traffic or anything, you know. I mean, that's pretty much it. You know, it's not like it's high volume, like, you know, I'm planning on putting up nice buildings. You know, just down the street, they put up these self-storage buildings that were wood with, you know, no bathrooms in a lot of them, asphalt. You know, I'm gonna put up clear span metal buildings, concrete. They're gonna be nice buildings, you know? Stuck a lot of money in this property, and it's paid off, you know? CPI started with a few employees, now they're up to like 20, you know, 30 employees in the place, you know, so, you know, that's where the boat storage was inside the main building, and now we can't do it inside the main building, so that's why we're proposing this. And it's still at a lesser scale than what it was. So, I mean,
Okay.
that's my proposal. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, Ted. City Administrator has a comment?
the only thing I was going to mention is there certainly seems to be apprehension about kind of moving forward with just one piece conceptually. So I think what I would ask is that you can work with staff to maybe identify long-term, what's the plan for the site? So that would be discussing it with Bob Harris, and I'd be happy to join that conversation as well. Because I think there is an interest on the city part to make sure that we're realizing the highest value out of this parcel. So if we can work with you to identify ways to get to that point, that's something that we definitely would be interested in.
So basically, the city has to see value in the property, otherwise there's no value to the city. Unless, you know,
I would say it's one thing for somebody by right to have a use, but as Rob has said, this is something that I think is probably not an allowable use within the zoning district that it's contained in. So that's one thing, but the other thing is, yeah, I mean, I think with any property owner, we want to help them identify ways to maximize the property value.
maximize the property value. Yep.
It's helpful for the tax base, it's helpful for every taxpayer in the city.
And the community in general.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what comes down the road. I mean, like Jackson Machinery, that guy stores like 10,000 square feet of just big machines, you know? So, you know, I mean, he might take a building and he comes once a month just to pick up and, you know, he does his blow molding and he's right down the street. So, I mean, we're just looking at like a storage building.
So I think, I think you guys, I think what we're looking for is you to really think about the whole parcel, okay? And not just think about this one area, but what is your plan for the whole thing, okay?
Up the whole parcel.
And I don't think we're looking for an answer here tonight.
No.
I mean, what else are you gonna do with it? I mean, this is my, this is all I can come up with to do something actually useful with it.
Well, there's other pieces to this, like all the way on the south side, you've got that large parking area and things like that. You know, what is your long-term plan with all of this? Are you gonna end up adding more storage units on the south side?
Your microphone, Mike.
What we're trying to figure out is, because what we don't want is this week it's, or this year it's a couple of storage buildings, and then all of a sudden Joe Blow wants to do a small manufacturing piece over here, and then it's this kind of hodgepodge of all these buildings and all these different uses and things like that. What's the big picture with the whole piece of property? And so that we can kind of figure out the value of this
I mean,
property.
I can't really hear, but the south side of the property really doesn't have any large sections like this for putting up like a 12,000 square foot building for doing something. I wouldn't spend the money to do like a 5,000 square foot building or something like that. It wouldn't be worth it.
I think it makes a lot of sense for you to sit down with Bob and Tony and maybe Rob and just kind of have a conversation as to where to go from here, because you've got a couple of hurdles. And that is the use doesn't fit what it's zoned, as well as what the Plan Commission is looking for, a little bit more understanding of what the long-term goal is of the entire property. Did I say that clear, Tony?
Right.
Yeah, I
You
think
don't
so.
want a hodgepodge.
Well, you got an industrial park right down the street that's doing boat storage as well.
I get it. We just don't want a hodgepodge of stuff. We want to have an overall understanding or goal for the piece of property. Because it is a prominent piece of property, and it's been, since Simplicity left, it's been tough.
Eric, you had a
Sorry.
comment?
Yeah, I would just say if there's anything that you can do to look at the bigger scope of where the parcel is and what's around it, maybe give some thought not just to storage, but maybe some other uses that might help blend it in with the neighborhood around it. And if you are gonna come back with more storage and metal buildings, maybe give some thought to setbacks, landscaping, some ways to help soften it a little bit.
I just think that that you should take advantage, as Tony said, of the staff we have and to talk about ways we can achieve something that's beneficial both for the applicant and for the city. I think should take advantage of the staff.
So the end of the discussion, that's our kind of comments are that Ted should work with the staff to see where the best use of the property and what we could do, correct? Is that, everybody's under the same?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Mayor.
No. Alderman Newmeyer.
I want to make it clear, we're not discouraging or we're not disparaging the current businesses you have in there. I'm glad that they've filled up. That's quite a bit compared to what Mr. Coakley had, I believe. So we're not trying to discourage that. We're just more concerned with the north end, how it blends in with that, the overall. So I want you to understand that. We're not discouraging the businesses you have there. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I would agree too. We don't want to discourage what you've, the accomplishments you've had. But now let's sit down with staff and kind of figure out what's our long-term plan and how do we kind of blend some of these ideas so that it is a little bit softer against the residential neighborhoods, things like that. And I think that I would utilize the staff. I would utilize Bob and Tony and Rob to really help give you some good ideas. And we're not saying you got to do it all now. Just be thinking about it.
Because it's a concept plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you've done some good things and I want to see you succeed. And so,
And my plan was to get, and I talked with the engineer just to get this done by September so that, obviously they're ready for when people got to bring their boats in.
Sure. Sure.
So he told me we should have plenty of time,
Okay.
to do something like that. And I mean, he can get you the what the buildings are going to look like and everything. I mean, is that what you guys want?
Well, I think if I may,
Go ahead, yeah.
it still doesn't, I have to agree with Rob, it doesn't fit the zoning. We have to address that first. It doesn't fit the zoning, what you want to do. I don't know how we get around that.
So it's an industrial piece of property. And what's
Okay.
acceptable uses, the boat storage is not an acceptable use right now. And so we have to get over that hurdle.
I guess that's what I don't understand. So, but the other commercial properties, in the other industrial park, that's what they're doing.
Right, but their zoning may be different.
That has a different zoning?
It may, I don't know for a fact, but it may have a different zoning or it may have a conditional use.
Right.
Okay, so it may have an exception or a conditional use, or it may be a different zoning. That's how it's getting done.
So we need just to work with staff and contact them and work with them and see where we go.
Because hopefully they can get you over some of those hurdles.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I'll contact to set
To
a
extend
meeting
the
up.
conference for 15 minutes, press 1.
Okay. Bob, are you going on to item 11, zoning code amendment? Are you?
Yep, I am just setting up the
Zoning code amendment, just what we were talking about.
Ariel? Okay. Okay, this is actually a zoning text amendment, and specifically, it's a proposal to amend the I-2 industrial park zoning to allow for a used vehicle sales, and specifically, this is kind of the next step for the applicant to get a used vehicle dealership license. And just with a little bit of background, the applicant is Maritime Holdings, and they own the business doing business as Maritime Enterprises, which has owned and operated a boat storage business in the industrial park at 1020 Maritime Drive since, the business has been there since 99, 2000? Okay. And then when Maritime acquired that business, they expanded to the adjacent Allen Edmonds warehouse property at 1112 Bywater, and that was in 2019. And so the business is primarily boat storage, but apparently there's also other vehicles such as RVs, motorcycles, et cetera, et cetera. When the applicant originally came in to, as part of acquiring a used vehicle dealership license from the state, one of the requirements is a sign off from the municipality that that there's a site and is zoned appropriate for that. I-2 does not have used car sales or used vehicle sales under the I-2 zoning designation. So initially at staff had denied that initial request, and that led to the applicant applying for the zoning text amendment to allow for that. And so what it is, and I think the industrial park, obviously, and I don't think it's anyone's desire to open up a used car dealership at the industrial park. But what the used car dealership would be used for, and if I miss anything, you can just step in and correct me or fill in the gaps. But what the applicant would use it for is in his warehouse buildings, there's vehicles. And the dealership license would be in play for if a client that is storing a boat or vehicle there, be that person die or hit some financial hardship, and the family, the estate, or the individual himself or herself needs to sell or get rid of the vehicle. It'll be a service provided by Maritime to have that dealership license, either buy and then sell that vehicle or that boat or what have you. And so so there's really two options to consider here that I kind of laid out is, option one is deny the request just because it's not used vehicles at the site. However, just given the specific operation, and I think I'll let the applicant kind of step in with some details. Or you have the option of I recommend as an option two, if you want to go down that road, is to recommend amending the I-2 Industrial Park Zoning District and allowing a conditional use as accessory to the principal use when there's a need to sell a vehicle. And one thing that the applicant and both the state license allows is this would be entirely just on-site within the facility itself. It's not a traditional used car lot. So with that, hopefully I didn't misconstrue anything or leave anything out.
I want to, I guess, put the emphasis on, I have no desire to open a used car lot. This is, I guess, a formality in the process of obtaining a dealer license to be able to legally sell vehicles that get abandoned or anything like that on our property. So as part of the state application to get a license and to go through the legal channels of doing this, as Bob said, started all is if I need a permit to obtain a license, or if no permit is needed, we need the appropriate signatures from the authorities. So, I have no desire to open a used car lot. We're not going to be advertising out, on our lot. We're not trying to draw more traffic to the property. We have the use of our facilities for what we use them for, and again, this is to get our license. I don't want to. I'm not a used car salesman.
How many cars do you think this is gonna, in a course of a year?
I mean, if maybe 5 or 10, it really depends. We have had several customers that have passed, and family comes to us, or people have abandoned property, and now we have to get attorneys involved and the state involved to go through the process of selling the vehicle or getting rid of the property. So, learning our lesson over the past few years of that whole process, this would make that much easier.
I would ask Alderman Newmeyer, how many cars can you sell a year, do you know? I thought it was 5 or 6 you could sell without getting a license.
Right. I'm just wondering, in my past life.
It's 5 vehicles.
Can you not get rid of a vehicle by just filing a mechanic's lien? Step up to the plate and tell me why.
My attorney.
Okay, so to sell anything, you've got to use the repossession strike that the execution statute. So
Yes.
you got to advertise, use the sheriff.
Yes.
It takes several months. Sometimes you got to purchase a bond. You've got to put it in the paper. The sheriff has to orchestrate it with you. Sheriff is not thrilled when you make the call that you need their assistance in setting up the sale of the property. So your lien is step 1, but it's inchoate. It has no effectiveness until you take all these other steps. And your lien only exists to the extent you're holding on to the boat or car. So you have a lien, but you can do nothing with that lien until you actually execute on it by using the sheriff to sell the property on site or some other secured location indoor. And then after that sale, the sheriff then will make a title to the new buyer, which then goes to the DNR or to the DMV.
DMV. Is that changed recently? I worked for the City of Mequon Police Department for 30 years, and we had to dispose of vehicles on a regular basis. And I would file a mechanic's lien and just advertise, like you said, in the publications. I had one gentleman I had to track down in prison, and we filed for mechanic's lien, and we took the vehicle away. It was in our storage, and we sold it.
So there's no filing for a mechanic's lien.
Right.
The mechanic's lien exists.
Right.
You're noticing up the sale.
Okay.
Pursuant to statute.
Okay.
You can do it extrajudicially, but that is similarly complicated. You're making several affidavits and publication notices and conducting the sale, all in such a way such that, and this is for boats only, not for cars,
right,
such that you can then give the buyer at the sale this packet of affidavits they'll take to the DNR, and hopefully the DNR will issue a title to the buyer clean.
Right.
DNR may call you anyways and say, what happened? Are you sure where'd you advertise? Was this done per statute?
Understand.
Because the execution statute then cross-references the UCC as adopted by Wisconsin for purposes of determining whether you followed all the rules to sell the boat. In the end, you may end up with a boat that nobody bid on, or a vehicle or a boat nobody bid on anyways.
Right.
In which case, we have to go through the process of either paying the dump or trying to find a buyer.
Correct.
So that's where I said try to get the zoning and make sure you tell them you're never going to advertise anything. You're never going to put a sale sign on anything. You're never going to put any cars out anywhere. You're going to keep them all inside. And this is not an attempt to end around or be a fancy guy trying to sell cars.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would ask this question. How do we write their promises into the code so that it doesn't give the neighbors carte blanche to sell vehicles? I won't be writing it, the city attorney will.
Oh, and I talked to him briefly before.
Yeah.
He puts that right in there. The exception can be, you can add those caveats right to the exception for the permit conditional use.
For as I kind of noted, touched on in my report, if you wanted to go down the option 2 of just writing in some type of ordinance text change, I suggested the conditional use where you can just tailor it with all of those conditions as part of any use approval. So you can make it, for example, I said in my, just as a example, is accessory to a principal use when it's storage and it's conducted entirely within. So you can just go down a litany of conditions to allow for a sales use, i.e. with the use of a dealership license.
I guess I would only ask, add, so that satisfies my question. And of course, this is a recommendation to the council, so it's going to be up to the council and the attorney to draft this, and I have no issues with that, but I also think because we are talking about storage, and again, this is an industrial, and the questions have come up about the zoning code when it comes to storage or warehousing in the industrial district. I should say that Bob has been currently working on our zoning code, and so I think some of these issues I think are going to be clarified as the zoning code is updated. Yeah, so I mean, I think, so I think the previous applicant could note that we're not trying to eliminate the boats that are stored on site. We weren't talking about that. We were talking about new storage. But I think this is something that Bob is going to be addressing in the next couple of months as well, so that the zoning ordinance is more clear.
So let me understand this. Essentially, this is I-2, right?
This is I-2.
Okay, and I-2 allows warehousing, but it does not allow storage. correct?
Right.
But somehow this particular property, it was an acceptable use years ago when this thing started, correct?
He's got it. He's answering. Let him answer.
We talked about the fence, but I don't recall either in the case of Simplicity or this, it coming before this body. So I think
And-
there's some questions
Yeah,
that
Plan
Bob
Commission
is
originally
researching.
approved the business in 99 or 2000.
Okay.
Okay, so it was approved somewhere along the line to have this as storage. Okay.
When I purchased the property from the previous owner, they went through the proper procedures, and we've got packets and paperwork. And as Bob has shared in communications via email, he said, in addition to your boat storage as they were granted to us when.
Okay.
So I haven't applied for that conditional use. I assumed my understanding was I
Came with the
inherited that with the property.
Okay. And so do you understand some of the concerns about getting the carte blanche, selling cars and things like that? The concern is if we allow, one of my concerns is if we allow this and let's say 5 years down the road, you sell this property and it's now got that used car piece to it, how do we make sure that it stays with that particular owner and it's for these few cars as part of this so that it doesn't go with the property and,
The licensor for the state, you have to reapply and redo it every 2 years. So it'd be an ongoing thing associated with, that requires maintenance and upkeep on our end. So I imagine, let's say I were to sell it, somebody else would have to go through the whole process of, checking all the boxes to apply. This, if this is approved, now I can submit my application and see if it even gets approved by the state.
Right, so it would be, so we're discussing it at this body, it'll go to the council, it'll be 2 readings, and then it'll come back here to get the conditional use, correct? Right?
What I suggested is if you wanted to go with option 2 and recommend tweaking the zoning text in I-2, I would prepare a draft wording of text change. It would come back here for your review and recommendation to the council. The council would approve the text amendment in the zoning code. And then once that text is codified and approved, Maritime would come in and apply for that conditional use, if it's a conditional use. And then I would add that also with conditional uses, they for example, I just remember this when my first plan commission here was just down the street on Maritime was that car salvage operation.
Right.
And that's just a series of conditional uses, one after another. So one left, and then this one came in, and that was a new conditional use review.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying option 2 would be to change the verbiage in the zoning district of I-2 to allow it as a conditional use?
It's my suggestion.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
And I think I sympathize with your trying to relieve yourself of property that's abandoned. I have friends that do storage, and I've heard horror stories trying to get rid of boats that somebody passes or the family member just decides not to come back anymore. I think our concern is that it doesn't turn into a used car sales lot. We don't want that in there, but I understand what you need to do.
They make it look so easy on Storage Wars.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question for maybe the city administrator. So if he's got to apply every 2 years for a dealer's license to sell a car, can we do a conditional use that would only last so long? And that if we feel he's not doing what we want him to do, then before he has to apply again, remove a conditional use?
I am not positive on that one. I would assume that you could. Is this on? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
on.
I would assume that you could.
Then he's got to go through this every 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if he doesn't meet the conditional use,
Yeah,
then
so you could make it consistent with the application process.
it's not his main business. Because I'm not real thrilled about this. So I'm just trying to figure a way around it. It's not his main business, Mike.
No, right.
You know, so if he's got to apply for the license every 2 years and we don't like what he's doing there, we just
So,
don't renew a
let's say he
condition.
follows all the rules, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this body has changed over completely. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Commissioner Knightsky's gone. Alderman Newmeyer's gone. And all of a sudden, that body's like, heck no, we don't want used cars, even though he's followed all the rules. You're okay with that?
I am.
Okay. I'm just trying to
Sounds
figure
like
out.
Eric and I would still
No
be there,
offense
so
to the
that's
other
okay.
council, but geez, someone sold some land down by a North Slip, which I totally disagree with. So it changes. I'm stuck with that because, and no offense to the people here that were on that council, but I guess I'm not real thrilled about that. But that's what it is. It's sold. You can't do anything about it. That's just the way it is.
Right, and so it's tied to your hands. I get it.
So things change, unfortunately, not for the better in government. Ted, come on, say something, Ted.
You could a future council could rewrite that ordinance. Yeah, I mean, they could. It's not like selling land. When you sell land, it's sold. But if you
Correct.
create an ordinance, you can change a majority of the council could change the ordinance at a future date.
Eric.
Yeah, you should be able to, if you wanted to put it as a condition and say it's for this specified period of time and then you have to come back in for review. You should be able to do that. And that way you can avoid making a wholesale change to the ordinance or worry about how it would affect the other neighboring properties.
It'd be much like a liquor license or, things like that.
Yeah, I think
You have
it's
to reapply for every year.
I think it's called a specific limited conditional use. So.
Okay. I mean, I certainly sympathize with what, your back's against the wall with some of that. And I get that. I'm not a huge fan of this becoming a used car lot down the road. So I like this idea that, as your license comes up, you've got to come back and just kind
Didn't hear
of
him.
reapproved. I mean, that way it kind of doesn't go with the property and it doesn't get stuck. Where all of a sudden, you sell it and it turns into a used car lot.
Commissioner Matera, do you have something to say?
No, not at this time. There were times I was going to chirp in, but it seems like everybody's kind of echoed what I wanted to say.
Well,
I've kind of self-deemed myself the precedent police, but I think a lot of my concerns have been addressed. So I'm okay at this point, but
Are
thank
you
you for
sure?
checking in.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So, commissioners? Where you at?
I guess I would say if we select option 2, we still have the opportunity to review it and approve or reject it at the next plan commission meeting. So I would move that we accept staff's recommendation of option 2.
And that's with a conditional use, or Eric, did you say a specific conditional use?
You'd have to check the code or ask the city attorney how,
But that can come back.
I can not
Yes,
only
sir.
add conditional use language, I can come up with another option or two to consider.
Okay. So we have a motion for option 2. Do we have a second? Alderman Newmeyer? I hope there's none. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Opposed. So it passes.
Who opposed it?
I did.
Oh, okay,
I did.
okay. Just curious.
I just don't like it.
Thank you very much.
And Philippe, I will follow up with you and I'll explain just when I'll sit down and, do my homework and just I'll stay in touch with you for the next step.
Okay. Item 11 is done. Forthcoming events. Anything with forthcoming events? Birthdays, anniversaries, mayor, League of Women's Voters. Just be aware of trick questions, guys. There's always a gotcha question in there. Alderman Betting and Mr. Knightsky, there's going to be. Okay. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
That was Rob, and the second. Tony?
Second?
Yep.
I like to think I was first, but I'll take the second.
You got the second.
You got to be here to get the first.
Okay. You got to be here to get the first. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.